everyone, today I'm going to show you how to complete a drawing using traditional drawing materials that most people have at home. So I'll do a section on colored pencils, a section on markers, a section on crayons, as well as a section where I'm going to kind of try to mix them together and see what happens. So on top of just using these to add color to my individual drawings, I'm also going to show you how to create value with these drawing materials. Value is an element of art. It refers to the gradual change from the lightness or darkness of a color. So that means if I had, like with my apple painting, I had most of my color of my apple was red, and where the light hit it would be a tint of red, or an area that you'd add traditionally white or a highlight. And then there was also a darkness of the red, which is the shadowed areas. So that's usually you'll see value in items when light hits an object. And in painting, you get to, in like acrylic paints or tempera paints, to make highlighted areas to change to the lighter colors, you'd use white. And in the darker colors, the darkness of the color, you would use black. Now, when I was in high school, I was taught not to use black as a way to darken colors or to deepen a color to look like a shadow or the shade of that color. I was taught how to use other colors to make that. So I'm going to actually show you that with my colored pencils most likely, because that was how I learned the best with my value. So I'm going to show you that first, and I'm going to zoom you in and we'll get right to work. So first I'm going to show you how to complete with a color, and I'm going to just choose one of my blues so you can see it. And what best way to usually change from light to dark with a colored pencil, especially in a normal pencil, is the pressure you put on it. So if you put light pressure, so I'm going to do really light pressure, you'll see it's pretty light, but the moment I start to apply more pressure, it gets darker. And if I go really hard, it's even darker. Now I'm using the same colored pencil. All I'm doing is changing how hard I'm pressing with my pencil. And there is a gradual shift from light to dark in the value of this colored pencil. Other ways you can add some value. Let's quickly talk about how to use a colored pencil. You'll see right now I'm just doing up and down strokes. So they're like fast little tiny lines. The best to do, if you don't like this texture of that line and the graininess of the lines, do small circles all next to each other. So all I'm doing is tiny little circles like this. But because it's actually almost like scribbling in a sense, I'm just making tiny circles continuously next to each other to fill in an area. And so I can also do that with a light pressure, a medium pressure, and then for the darkest, I usually have to hold my pencil a lot closer to make it darker. And so this has more up and down strokes, this is more circular strokes. So depending on how you like it, you can do whatever you want. One way I also like to add value with my colored pencils, because colored pencils you can layer on top of each other. So I'm going to go a huge area, and you'll see how I'm holding my pencil to make it really light, holding it at the end and using my wrist to go up and down. I'll just fill this whole spot with the blue. And then maybe I'll darken it just a little bit here. And then I could actually go in, if I really, really want to get it really dark, going with a different blue that's a darker tone of blue. And then I can actually add that to make it look a little bit darker and have a more interesting value. So when drawing and painting, you can stick with one color, but when you start to add other colors in the shadowed areas, it makes the shadows a little more interesting and actually helps the highlighted areas be even brighter. So I'm now going to go in And I'm gonna actually just I'm gonna stop talking and you're just gonna watch me fill in this witch hat that I drew with my colored pencils. All right, so now let's take a closer look at crayons, and I'll use the same, like I tried to pick similar colors with my crayons, color pencils, and markers so that we can have an understanding of what they all can look like and what they have in common, what they have that are different. So I have the base color blue that I used for the colored pencils as my best as a crayon. And with crayons, I kind of still do the whole kind of what I do with colored pencils to create value. I start with a light pressure and move to a more medium to really dark pressure to create a value. And I can do just like what I did with colored pencils. I could also just layer on other colors by pressing light with my first color, going to a medium pressure, into kind of like a dark or a hard pressure, and then go in with a color that looks darker and layer that on top to make it even darker. Now you'll see colored pencils definitely mix way better than crayons do, but there is something really cool about crayons that I learned almost a year ago, where if I press really hard and I kind of then loosen up just a little bit and move to another color and press really hard, and you're like, Miss Richmond, you're not creating value. Hold up a second. Press a little bit lighter. Where I press lighter, press darker with the next color. I've created three separate colors, and I pressed really, really hard so there's none of that weird crayon texture that some people really don't like. It's all flat and filled in. Well, then with any sort of piece of metal, like right now I'm gonna use my paint palette. If you have a old pencil that had like an eraser on the top and it's no longer there, and you take the eraser out, you smush that piece of metal. That's also a great metal tool scraping for this tool, or for this technique. So I've pressed really, really hard with all my crayons, and what I can do with my metal is scrape off that first layer of wax of crayons. And what is left behind is just the color that has been pressed into the paper. It leaves no trace of like a crayon texture, and it actually makes it look really neat and shiny at the end. So let me get through scraping this all off, and you'll see there's wax building up on my paint palette and on my paper, so I just slide it away, and you'll start to see that the light blue is pretty much all done. Just scraping away, trying to get that first layer of wax off the paper, so all that is left is just the color that the crayon leaves behind. So then it leaves behind just a very, very smooth, like even to the touch, it's really smooth. And it actually is shiny, if you see how it like actually gets a little shiny because of the wax. So that's a technique that I learned last year with crayons that I thought was really cool. It works, I think, a lot better, not when creating value, but you want to just create like a shape of color. And so like I'll do the dark area, and then maybe I'll do a light area next to it, just to create a cool, like, weird shape. I find this is easier, not creating actual value, but creating shapes of color next to each other to create something really cool. So that is just one way to work with crayons, and because I'm working with crayons right now, I thought I'd show you that. But to do this, my little witch hat here, I'm gonna do the technique of just creating value, kind of like I did with the colored pencil. But this is just a really cool side note about how to use crayons, because it does, oh my gosh, it feels really cool. I mean, this just feels like crayon on paper, but this is like, I don't know, there's something really cool about it. Anyways, I'm gonna get right to work on this witch hat then. All right, so now we're gonna move on to markers, and you'll see I actually have less colors, choices for markers than I did for colored pencils and crayons, because markers, when you buy a pack of markers, only have specific colors. But when like a pack of, like I had a pack of 64 crayons, I had more blues and yellows to choose from. And my colored pencils, this was a big set from Prismacolors that are really nice colored pencils, and I think I have like, it's like a pack of 48. So like I had way more choices to choose from, but with packs of markers, you get what you get. So these are I picked the colors from the markers first, and then kind of tried to find ones that worked best for colored pencils and crayons. And with markers, because they are ink, we could just do what I kind of think looks more like a graphic or graphic design kind of look, which is layering a color and filling the whole space with that color. And then you go in with like a mid-tone, and then add like the mid-tone color. And so it's not really actually blended. It's not a gradual shift for value. It's just, here's a mid-tone, a light tone, and the dark tone. And that to me looks like this. It looks like a graphic piece of art that I've made when I was also in high school, and I did graphic art and would make self-portraits. In Illustrator, the shapes it wasn't a gradual shift from color to color like we do in colored pencils, or even with our crayons. With like ink, and even on a computer, the colors that I had, like let's say like this is a shape of something, I don't know, no, it looks like a teardrop, but then I would want to add value to it. I would just do kind of a mid-tone, and I wouldn't be able to really blend it. Now there are markers out there that allow you to blend between colors to create a gradual shift, but traditional like art school markers, you can't. So this would be how I would create, and I'd probably go over the dark areas again with it, with the light color, just to kind of bring some sort of cohesiveness to it. But that would be how to create value with markers. Another way would be actually just to do if I did like a layer of color, and then I'll fill it in. Then what was called hatching. Now hatching is when you take any sort of material. Hey, sorry, I lost you there for a second. You didn't miss too much, it looked like, but I was just showing you, like I drew a cube here, and I was gonna show you how to use what's called hatching to create value. So you could layer like this to make kind of that graphic look, like I said before, or you can do what's called hatching, and hatching is just taking your drawing material and either putting the lines really close to create like what looks like a darker value, or farther apart to make a lighter value. And I actually have an example here. Let me zoom out just a little. Ooh, zoom out, not zoom in there, Miss Richmond. Of a cloak that I drew where I had lines really, really close to create dark areas as a hatching mark, a slightly close to make a medium, and farther apart to make a lighter tone, and then obviously kept parts white to show the lightest areas. So that's one way you could use hatching to create value. And I think with markers, and I'll zoom you back in, is kind of the best way to make it with markers, because you could do it this way if you want a graphic look or an illustrative look, because a lot of people who use professional markers like Copics, like these, let me grab a couple, like these actually are alcohol-based markers, and they blend really easily together. And I don't have any Copic paper to show you that, but they blend really nicely together because they stay wet longer than normal, just normal craft elementary art markers do. But I'm just going to show you anyways. Got a little side tangent. I'm going to show you how to do some hatching with a marker. So like this part would be the darkest because I'm imagining the light coming from this way. So I'd have the lines really, really close here to kind of show that this is a darker area, and then this is like a shadowed area. So I'm gonna have them a little bit farther apart, and then that shows, sorry, this marker has a weird thing going on, but this is the lightest, darkest, medium tone, and so I created that using hatching. Haven't really figured out what I want to do for my hat yet. I think I might do a little bit of both and create, I was going to do probably hatching for the feather, because I'll give it more of a feather texture, and then might try to do kind of really cool graphic look with the hat with the markers kind of like this. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to just get right to work. Marker caps don't go on. Now let's try mixing them all together to do a mixed media drawing. So I'm trying to figure out, I have to first see what can layer on top of each other and what kind of order of things I should be doing things in. So maybe I'll grab the three base colors I used for the hat, and maybe I'll put like the marker down, put the crayon down, press really hard first, and then I'll lighten up. I'll do the same with the colored pencil. Now let's see. What if can I go over, kind of go over that. I can definitely go over the marker. And then can I go over that. Oh, and I can go over the marker. That works. That does not. So maybe what I'll do is kind of fill in some of the area with a marker first, and then colored pencil. Or I could do, ooh, what if I did marker, because I kind of liked how I laid down the color in the marker, and maybe use this hatching with colored pencil and crayon. Maybe that would be something really cool to give it like a texture. I could also maybe do some cross hatching, which is you go both ways, so cross hatching, regular hatching. And that way I can do like maybe the ribbon, like the ribbon on the hat is a color. I do a solid color with a marker, and then do maybe some hatching that like follows the way. I don't know if I really do it more like colored pencil. I could do marker over the whole thing, and then do the ribbon and the feather with the crayon to add value. And then maybe for the hat, what I could do is create, if I do cross hatching, I could give it like a texture with a colored pencil. I think I'm gonna try that. Let's see how it goes. So I'm gonna put the marker down, kind of like I did with over here, and then I'll go in, because colored pencil and crayon have texture, I'll make textures on the hat to make it look like it's tweedish or made out of like some sort of burlap. I think that's what I'll do. Okay, right, let's just do it. And there we are, all 4 hats all filled in with 3 different materials and combining all of them and using a little bit of value to make the hat look a little more realistic. And this might be stylized in a way, especially these 2 I think are stylized with a very more illustrative graphic look. And I don't know which one is my favorite. I kind of like this idea of using texture with the color pencil on this one, but I think this is so vibrant and was really cool that when I laid down the dark area, I could then go over with that light color again and kind of sweep over the dark areas with this color, and it kind of blended in a way very similar to traditional, or not traditional, excuse me, like the Copic markers or like illustrative markers that professional art illustrators use. So it was kind of cool to be able to see that I can do that with traditional school art markers. Yeah. What do you think? Which one would you want to try? And I hope you had some fun watching this video. It was kind of fun to make, and it's kind of cool to see the 3 different materials next to each other. I might have to do more videos like this. What do you think? Have a great day. Bye.